welcome to Divine Dialogue, heard on Rockland World Radio, the second and fourth Mondays of the month, tonight being one of them. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Divine Dialogue with our hosts, Teresa Winnicky and Lisa A. Howard.
Divine Dialogue. It's been 2 weeks since our last show. We have a lot to talk about. Now that we are in week 7 of the Reach Resolution Success Workshop, which took place, it started February 11th, Tuesday, February 11th. Tomorrow will be week 7, and the end of our workshop is quickly approaching.
Quickly. I can't believe we were talking today and we thought it was 6 and I had to go back and check, but we're on 7.
We're on week 7 now, absolutely. So interesting that the time flies when you're doing something good and having fun at the same time. Tonight's show is because of the week and the curriculum that we've been studying over the last week. I thought that it would be a great discussion to further on habit forming and the self-sabotage or procrastination, whatever it may be that shows up and gets in the way of us forming a good habit. Teresa and I, just before the show, were looking through some of the information that I had taken notes on, and it talked about how easy it was to form a bad habit and how difficult it was to start a good one. So I don't know what the actual ratio is in terms of, percentages, but the average, according to science, research indicates that the average person, regardless of whether you consider yourself above average, below average, just the medium is 3 weeks to form a good habit. So it would be interesting to know how quickly a bad habit is formed in comparison. I would imagine it can be done in days, 3 days to 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
With a bad habit.
So if you have any feedback or comments, 845-353-2910. That's 845-353-2910 if you'd like to call in and comment on that or tell us about your habit, or we can help you break a habit, give you some commentary on that, because I think creating a bad habit can happen really fast.
Well, it happens without us even knowing it's become a habit. It just becomes a habitual, without consciously being aware of it. Right. We pick up what I call the default system. The default mechanism is often where our habits are truly controlling our default system. So
I just want to interrupt and tell our listeners that there is a chat room that is available for comments and questions if the phone line becomes busy, and they can chime in with their questions and or comments by hitting the chat room button located on the left-hand side of our menu bar.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
So where were we? Okay, on habits and the forming of habits.
So one quick habit that I could think of is having that little piece of Dove chocolate right after dinner. That's just a simple thing. And then when you just you just always did it. My parents always served dessert after dinner, or whatever dessert was after. Even some people do it after lunch. My habit was just only after dinner. I would never have a cookie or a snack after lunch. And when I got married, my husband starts digging into the cookies or whatever, the sugary, snacky things. So I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? He goes, I always had a snack right after lunch, and it just, it just forms because that's what your parents did, that's what your friends did, that's what whoever did, and all of a sudden, sometimes it's hard to break that's a tiny little habit.
Well, it's an interesting thing, too. You're talking about habits, and it's also partly learned experiences. Is it a habit or is it something we learned? You're talking about having a piece of chocolate afterwards. There was a time when that was a good thing, then it was a bad thing, now it's back to being a good thing. If you have dark chocolate.
Especially dark chocolate.
And it depends on how much chocolate in my house to tell you if it was a good thing or a bad thing.
An appropriate serving size of dark chocolate with a meal, it's now considered a very good thing. It's a single, fat.
Same with the glass of wine, they say.
Right. Once again, size matters. See? Size matters.
Yeah, so habits. So what are some of the habits? So over the course of this time that we've been doing this show, we've been talking about, giving some things up, taking some things on. What are some of the habits that maybe you have considered lately?
Well, I think The thing is that we're trying to build new experiences, new habits, if you want to call them that. So what do we want to do for ourselves? What do we want to make habitual? We want to make part of our spiritual practice habitual. We want to start our day in a positive way. We want to end our day in a positive way. So those are the goals of establishing good habits for me and for what we're learning.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're right when you said, you know, it all depends on the habits that we want to take up or put down is really based upon where we want to go in our life. So if we have no idea where it is that we want to go, we're just kind of living day to day, then it doesn't really matter a whole hell of a lot to us what that habit is or isn't. You know, we're just doing our thing. But it was interesting, my 19-year-old son yesterday as we were driving in the car said, what is the purpose of life? Why am I going to school and studying? I get interested, then I get bored, and then I get interested and bored. And when does that stop? And how does that, you know, where does it go? What am I supposed to do? And so it was a really great conversation to have at 19 with someone. And
what'd you tell him?
I told him the purpose of life is to love it, to be expressed, to give your gifts and leave the world a better place than you started, to really do what it is you came in here to do and figure it out along the way, you know? So that was my best.
And then it goes into it's an open-ended, because the next question would be, well, how do I know what my gifts are? Right? So just because we're good at something doesn't necessarily mean it's a gift. It's only a gift if we're loving it, and that's the difference.
Well,
it's either a cross to bear or a gift.
One of my favorite metaphysical teachers, who's probably nearing 90 now, I love him dearly, always answered that question by saying, we're here to be in joy. And doesn't that present a whole lot of issues for us? You know, many of us are taught as we come up by our school, our parents, our institutions, it's not about joy, it's about working hard, you know. So what a lovely thing to be able to say to somebody, we're here about joy. Along the way, we have some responsibilities to make the planet a better place. But we're really here about joy.
Right. I like that. I like that.
I mean, in and of itself, what a great way to enter into your spiritual practice, or of just meditating without looking for any answers, just contemplating joy. Would imagine the benefit that gives to not only your physical body, your mental psyche.
And you know, it's interesting you mentioned meditation. I was sitting doing something at the computer this morning, and one of the morning programs was on, and Russell Simmons was on, the rapper. You know, we're hearing about meditation from so many sources now. You know, and this guy is going to have a lot of influence on a lot of young people. And he's talking about, I can teach anybody to meditate. And he's got books out now, and he's talking about his young girls, his daughters, that he's already they do meditation 15 minutes at a time with him. Yeah. You know, what a great practice to be able to give your child.
To go, what a gift. To go inside.
Yeah.
Well, to note how to do that.
To
introduce
them
to
the mind.
They're teaching children, even in daycare.
Yeah.
Where they literally will have it's a powered down time. It's not to nap. But that is in and of itself an introduction to what meditation is, because meditation can be misinterpreted for a means of communication when it was really designed to be a means of reaching your I amness. It was to need and to want nothing is to be totally whole. When we're needing and wanting, it suggests that there's something missing, right? So for what it's worth, meditation for children is just a way to get them to just to come back, because they've been so scattered.
Yeah, I remember when my son, he was in a private school, my oldest son, so he was maybe kindergarten age, maybe 5. And I remember they always taught them, all these teachers would say, okay, everyone sit down and be quiet. And they'd go, everyone do this.
Yeah, I remember that.
Take a breath and just focus right here. And that was like their, you know, they were...
It brought the kids back.
Into, centered and
they could focus and
calmed it all down.
Right. And I remember hearing that long before ADD was a kitchen norm, it seems. Right. So I don't know what was wrong with us when we were bouncing off the walls. We were still able to to bring it back. So, so Jan, let's have this conversation specifically about the curriculum for the week. Do you find it difficult to engage in the reading every day?
No, because it's a practice now. But initially, yes, to be disciplined. We were talking about some of the aspects of what was required to be successful. And, that's one of them, to be disciplined, to make your commitment and then to follow through on your commitment, whatever words you want to use for that. To recognize why you're doing what you're doing and to have a plan for it and to follow through with that plan. I mean, that's skipping some steps, of course, but yeah, I think that whatever has happened culturally for us, times have changed since we all grew up and we're all different ages. But it seems as if when I was younger, I mean, you were talking about food before. Food was different. We didn't worry about carbs, we didn't worry about desserts.
Or trans fats.
It was all balanced. It was all part of, I remember desserts at almost every, lunch and dinner. Somebody made a pudding or somebody made a jello or there was cake or there was something. But we ran it off. We were out there exercising. Today's children are either not getting that opportunity or it's not as focused because there are other things available. Those other things are wonderful. I mean, we have technology we didn't have when I was a kid. A kid of 5 and 6 can pick up one of these devices, whether it's a phone or a laptop, and already they know how to get access to information. So that part of it is a wonderful thing. But the negative to it is they're not getting the outside. They're not getting the wonderful, both spiritual and physical, emotional, you name it, that gets out when you're exercising. I don't see kids on the block playing ball,
climbing trees.
Trees.
Remember kickball in the street?
Yeah.
It's also interesting. I was reading something on Facebook the other day that's from some source. I don't remember which one. Upworthy, I think, one of those, about even though people are so connected now, they're so very lonely. The loneliness factor has gone up because people may think they're sharing with their friends or whoever's out there, but there is no FaceTime and there is no depth to what, mostly, going on those chats or whatever. So there's people who are very lonely, even though we have all the technology, we have everything that you could need, but it's a different place.
So we're having to build structure that talks about these things, even for the very young, as you say. We're teaching little kids how to have quiet time. We didn't used to have to teach that. They learn more by example.
Yeah,
right.
And it depends upon what the child sees in their environment, whether the environment is a go. And honestly, I feel sorry for parents today. And it's not that I didn't have to be one of a two-partner. We both worked. We had daycare, childcare for my daughter. But it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher to parent, I think. I see my daughter come home at the end of her day and she's tired and who knows what she had to deal with. And that's not maybe true for everybody in every job, but certainly a lot of jobs take on stresses that maybe we didn't have years ago, and there's this pressure now because of the definition of the economy, and people are putting more into their jobs because they're afraid if they don't, they won't have jobs, and all of what that causes for a young child at home when mom or dad comes home and they're already frazzled and the kid hasn't seen them all day and they just want to bounce all over them. So we're having to teach everybody techniques to wind down. The modern family, if you will, has its, all kinds of shapes, sizes, and colors, and, the rainbow and everything else, but it's still, for practical purposes, it's still a structure which needs a lot of support, not just, not just from the individuals in that family, but, as the expression goes, it takes a village. Takes a village. And the village is not necessarily what it once was.
No, and that's where social media now is just as much. you're co-parenting with social media. And in some cases, depending on the level, how much activity, any one of the teenagers, and even I would say preteens, they're already, to your point, young kids are starting with social media at the age of, I've seen kids as young as 8.
Sure.
Oh, I've seen them younger. The other day I met someone for coffee, and a mom came in and she was writing out invitations to a birthday party, and her little daughter was there. She couldn't be more than 4 because she wasn't in school. It was the morning. She was there on the phone, laying down, just...
Looking up her contacts for her?
She was watching something or playing on the iPad. She was fully engaged with, the babysitter mode of these wonderful technology pieces here. So they know how to get access to all of that.
So, without knowing, they have a learned habit.
Yes, habit.
They have, hence, without intention, they have learned a behavior that is a repeated behavior is a habit. Which brings me, and I don't know why I'm having a tough time getting the words off my lips today. So, while we were preparing for the show, I was doing some research on habits. I thought it was interesting, and I mentioned to the girls, today is Healthy Monday, and Healthy Monday is apparently a national public health campaign to recommit to forming better habits and thinking in terms of healthy decisions, healthy body, healthy mind, and that to make Monday, every Monday of our life, a chance to recommit. Now, of course, because I can be sarcastic, sometimes I joked to Teresa that I felt Catholic all over again, because on Saturday, that's what it was. Saturday was my Monday in confession time, and only to wind up in Sunday right back where you started. But in any case, I thought that it was interesting that that the focus and the emphasis is not on beating ourselves up because we try. If at first you don't succeed, try again. The website and the article that I was reading was encouraging people who have goals that they're looking to achieve. And for many, I think that the article started by discussing long-term goals and getting tired in the pursuit of those goals. And usually, when you get tired, just at the moment when you're ready to quit, is just the time when there's a growth spurt about to take place. And that level of exhaustion, both mental and physical, is what we feel when the old us is no longer strong enough to carry us any longer. Hence, going up that hill seems like a tall order. So, in class 6, part of the curriculum was to recite our vision statements daily in the mirror, looking at ourselves, and to do this out loud. Using the auto-suggestion and the benefits of subliminal messages, and deliberately speaking aloud to our subconscious to impress upon it our new idea of ourselves. And so I thought that I expected there to be some resistance, in which we all shared that there was a tendency at first. You don't want to do it. You can come up with every explanation, excuse, call it what you will. Things will come up. You're tired. You don't feel well. It's really the body resisting the change, not because it knows that the new idea is better for it, simply because it's the only thing it knows, right? So...
And the mind saying, I'm going to feel so silly talking to myself in the mirror.
Right. But the idea of this
workshop... As
workshop...
comes in, I'm good.
The REACH workshop, Resolution Success 2014, Teresa, for those of you who weren't with us from the beginning, the workshop was created and deliberately held off starting until the end of January, because we read that statistics showed of all resolutions made in the new year, 18% succeed. So we are avid supporters of focus on what you want and not on what you don't want. So we have focused on what the 18%. And successful people in leadership roles, whether it's spiritual or in a municipality, CEOs of corporate America, whatever the case may be, there are 12 principles typically, and I'm sure the list could go on, but for the most part, what makes a successful leader in any one of the venues is not what they do or don't do. It's the habits that they form and the things they have in common that we were researching. And one of them was reciting and speaking aloud their affirmations. And as Teresa pointed out, initially that can be an awkward thing. My daughter will hear me sometimes talking in the mirror, and she will laugh at me. You know, good thing it's my daughter, and I can take it. You have thick skin in my house. It's our own dialogue that is harder to take than the ridicule, no matter how innocent the ridicule might be. It's the self-dialogue, the dialogue that we tell ourselves that we feel stupid in this. That's what we need to be paying attention to and working through. Right?
Yes.
So.
There's a caller. There's no one to answer the phone now.
So on that note, we do have someone calling in, and we will continue the conversation on habit forming. But again, the number is 845-353-2910. In case we missed your call, the lines are open now. You can call 845-353-2910 and share with us one of the practices you have to help you and empower you to adopt healthy habits. One of them for our workshop is disciplining ourselves every day to do the work. When Coach Selby was on a couple of weeks ago, we talked about on his website this one particular sentence that I just can't get out of my head, that they knew that they could get the player to the game, but they didn't know if they'd get him to practice. So we all want to show up for the big day, and we want to be buttoned up and for the dance, but in order to change a current situation into a new, more empowering, better you, better life, whatever that terminology might be, whatever the mantra is for you, it has to come with change, because you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Or try to, what is the definition of insane? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. So whichever of the quotes you adopt as your philosophy, I'd love to hear more on what it is you think, and we'll continue sharing. Rich, do we have anyone on the line, or no? Did we miss it? Okay. So I can say, even as a facilitator, I find that every workshop that we have rolled out this year, in the past 12 months, have each pushed me to do more, to work smarter, not harder, but to work smarter with my time. And so it's always, no matter how many times you teach us the same class, every opportunity is a push sometimes, because I'm trying to grow up to be more, right? So I'm growing more, which means everything I do seems to be more. And I find that I can feel it in my body, resist it.
The next thing?
Well, it's the push.
Dropping the old and taking on
right.
a new?
Well, so you've been lifting 5 pounds for a month, and now we're going to go up to 7. You know, it's
right.
It's the jump.
It's the push, yeah.
It is the push. I find myself, I can physically feel myself resist it. So it takes even more resolve to stick through that. And so one of the other messages on that website that I was talking about Healthy Monday, talked about consistency and not performance. If we just focused in that, especially in that struggle, if we focus on consistency and not performance, thinking we need to do this a perfect certain way, but that if we show up every day, and that another recommendation was to make our goals, not the goals smaller, but the jumps, smaller incremental jumps.
Right. So you don't want to have this huge gap where there's such a big, I've made,
Right.
say I've made $1,000 a month, and now I want to make $50,000 a month.
Right.
Let's
it's a huge jump.
Let's go with something. If you've never done it before,
Right.
then there's a whole lot in there to get you to the next level. So can you do 1,100? Can you do 1,200? And what is that simple thing? People make mistakes in doing that. They don't push themselves enough.
Right.
They make the same goal, the 10% or the 20%, when what really inspires them is being a whole different thinker. What would it really take me to make $50,000 a month? Now, I have to be a much different thinker to make $50,000 a month than $1,000 a month. And that comes from really learning from the people who are doing it, people who make the $50,000 a month. Well, what can you tell? Why is he different than I am? What is he thinking about? What is he always doing? What are his habits? And that's where Napoleon Hill wrote, Think and Grow Rich, out of the 12 habits of what he studied people over a 20-year course in business, sitting presidents, just people from all different economic, school backgrounds. And he really found that there were 12 really ingredients to that. One was, first is making the decision that you actually want it.
Right.
Right. That's really the
Right.
get-go.
Number one is to know what you want.
Yeah. And then work, then go from there.
Right.
But yeah, you can't, the goal is not to jump from 1,000 to 50, but it is those incrementals. Who do I have to be to make the different changes in my life?
Right.
Well, the goal might be to jump to 50, but what we're saying very clearly is you do it in steps. You don't go, in most cases, most of us don't go from 1 to 50.
Right.
And the thing that comes to my mind is biting off more than you can chew.
Right. It was interesting. I watched the Steve Jobs movie the other night with my husband. He was supposed to watch it for this mentorship
I didn't
program.
see that. Missed it.
Ashton Kutcher was in it, and really.
What channel was that? I'll have to do on.
We actually streamed it from Amazon. It wasn't on any of the pay-per-views or any of that, so we streamed it from Amazon. But to see, where he started, he had an idea. In 1974, he had this idea. He just saw something and had the idea of what the world would be like, and in 10 years, he was at a huge, like in 2 years, you see all the increments to do 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, where he is in his life, and how he kept losing. Even though he was the wealthiest man in the world, he still got fired from his job, even though he created the company.
Right.
He still lost millions and millions of dollars trying to get to the next level because there was a lot of research, and he was such a fanatic of having it be exactly the way he wanted it. And so there was a lot of what they would say are failures, but really it's really just a feedback on it's working, not working, working, not working. And, he came to, they wanted him back because he had the right intention. He knew where he wanted to go, and he kept working on it. And even when he wasn't employed at Microsoft, and I think he dumped 1.5 million shares of stock at one time to prove a point. But they wanted him back, because he was still that creative mind. He still knew what he wanted, and he kept going for it, reaching for it, the next thing. So, there's always, if it's possible for one, it's possible for all.
Absolutely. So let's review for habits now. Not in goal setting, but in habits. So maybe this is a goal that we want to adopt more empowering habits. So there is a discussion. Do we eliminate the bad habits in order to make room for the good habits? So if you are an avid watcher, which almost I want to laugh when I say that, as our show is still very young, and we are hoping one day that this will be and have its wide audience. But do you eliminate the negative habits to make room for the positive, or would a divine dialogue follower believe in you don't focus on what you don't want, you simply start incorporating the practices of an empowering habit, and you will have less time to engage in the destructive habits. So without word puzzles and so on, the first step to creating a habit is, number one, knowing what it is you want. What do you want this habit to achieve for you? The second one that I read, which I thought was interesting, was to make a list of all of the benefits. And the reason I liked this particular formula for deciding what habit was worthy of my time and my effort was because the way I think and reflect is through reasoning. And so I will engage in a discussion with myself and literally talk to, because I can see and feel the resistance that I just mentioned. I know when that's happening. So I have to engage in a conversation with myself to reason this new idea into being. And that starts with making a list of what the benefits are. I thought that was a good one, and a good way of just tricking your mind into paying attention to you. It's that whole closing argument type of thing that goes on.
Yeah, I remember Mary Morrissey used to say, when you ask, what's the next thing for me, or what are you looking at as the next thing, not that if I'm worthy of the goal or of whatever it is, but if it's worthy of me, if it's worthy of my time and my love and my effort, and so similar to what am I going to gain?
That's right. That's right, and it's got to be there's got to be some emotional investment in it, right? And then number 3 was commit to the habit. And, you know, the following is true of anything. If you want change, there's going to be work involved. So,
Unfortunately, but yes.
you know, no matter how you try to sell it, I'm a saleswoman. I part of me wants to sell that, but the other part of me is really very authentic, and it's change takes work, and sometimes we don't want to do the work. And the idea is to continue to be consistent. So after commitment comes consistency.
But I think one of the things here is it really is not work if you want it enough. And in the midst of that backward pull to where we were up until now, there's that look at it as if it's work. But if it's something we really desire that much, any sense that it's work falls away.
Right.
True. It's dedication. I think it's a dedication to ourselves, to whatever it is that's trying to come from us at that point.
Right, but again, we can't think with with our current paradigm. It has to be coming from the place of what it is we want, because our current paradigm already has limitations wrapped around it on what we should. There's a big collective society that believes that, like you said, ask anyone what is the purpose of life. You know, if you ask my mother, it was to be a good mother. You know, if you ask my father, maybe he would have said it was a good provider. You know, things have changed. If you ask my daughter Samantha, she'll have a totally different answer than I had. So we have every right to live a joyful and abundant life, whether you embrace a religious doctrine or a spiritual path, or whatever your school of life has been. We have a right to live joyful and happy, and it doesn't mean putting other people first. Eventually, you will run out of steam if everything we do is motivated. It's about what makes you really happy. It's about having the courage to follow your heart, but the will and the determination to put skin in the game.
No, I mean, one of the ways that I describe that is I was talking in another class a year or so ago about what my goal in life is at this point in time in my life. And in some ways, my goal has not changed. My goal is, and I heard somebody describe it this way, and it can be taken out of context, but my goal is to be in service. And that may sound on the surface, oh, in service, well, you're always doing something for somebody else. Yes, but I'm in service as long as it comes from a place of love. As long as it comes from my heart, as long as it is, I'm giving of my heart in a grateful way, then that's my definition of being in service. And, you know, these habits of taking care of the rest of the world are both positive and negative. We all know the people who become so codependent, and when their partner dies, they see that their life flash before their eyes, not their own. But I'm sorry, bad joke. But you know, being in a place of goodness, if you will, being in a place of service, being in a place of commitment, they're really all, you know, just different aspects to the elephant that the blind man is feeling. You know, so where are we in terms of forming habits, or where are we in terms of making commitments to ourselves? At any one time, we might be, you know, at the tail or at the trunk, you know, or feeling around the foot, you know. So it's all kind of the same thing. And you know, if we examine our goals in terms of, as you started to say, so hope I didn't interrupt you.
You didn't.
Know, from the aspect of what is the best thing for you in this situation. And that becomes difficult because of our upbringing, because of our institutions, because of all of it. But it certainly can be something that people can move towards and can become second nature, I think. And I think what I hear you saying too is that these people that we consider successful, and I saw an article the other day about, I guess it's Arianna Huffington, who went through a life crisis and is now, you know, has a book out reassessing what the real qualities of success are. It's not just about the money. So even at that level of affluence, people are talking about what really constitutes success for
And I
somebody.
think the answer is, I think,
And she mentioned meditation too, by the way.
and I
Hearing
say
it
that it's
everywhere.
Emma Curtis Hopkins' satisfaction.
Yeah.
That is-
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction.
Right. And that's different to
And the Rolling Stones would agree with
everybody.
you.
Right.
But they couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have along their journey.
So,
Is there a caller there, Rich?
No.
Oh.
All right. Something's going on with the phones tonight.
So we have a phantom caller on the show who
Trying to get
is
through.
forming a habit of calling us.
And if you
Ba-dum-bum.
can't get in, try that chat room.
Boom. So the list went on 9 ways to form a habit, but as we progress into the next 2 weeks, the curriculum gets a little tougher, simply because we have something for you to do every day, in addition to your homework. And it's because as we start to evolve, the curriculum we move closer and closer to your desire, then more is needed of you. More is required of you the closer you get to it, until it becomes part of your norm.
Your habit, your new X of where you operate
your
from.
new place of where you want to operate
Yeah.
from, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think that the category of successful people, the mindset is not how are they going to be successful. They come from a place of success. So they're not looking at how to get there or how to achieve it. They design from a place of already having.
That's like my son when he got up to bat. Of course I'm going to hit the ball. There's no question they're
Right.
going to hit the ball. Whereas the people who get up there go,
Right.
Yeah.
Now, but then to go back to the very immediate part of this conversation, that habits are formed whether with or without our consent, with or without our intention sometime. A more powerful, a more empowering habit takes intention, because we need to be consciously aware, hence we need to know what we want. We need to know if it serves our highest self and a greater purpose, if it's more than just us. But so if you are a participant of a REACH workshop, in particular this Resolution Success 2014, this curriculum has been prepared in mimicking and applying the practices, taking action, physical action, investing our time and our physical self in practicing the traits of successful people. And if part of that is doing your homework every day, and reading and listening to workshops over and over again, or whatever the case may be, we're wearing the hat. We're trying it on.
well, I always found I've done courses over the years, and one particular one that really I think I had the most growth was the daily accountability to someone on the other end every single day, that if I didn't send them that in, I couldn't get to the next level. The questions, a couple questions you had to answer. And so I wanted the result. I wanted that result that I wanted from doing that course. And it was every day being responsible for either answering the question, taking an action, doing something that I said I was going to do. And that propelled me into my greatest achievements, my greatest accomplishments. So and it was only from a supportive way. It wasn't in a bad,
Right.
You're bad if you don't do it. It was only in the supportive way of, come on, you said you were going to do it. Did you want it? And so I learned from that, and I try to be that way with my kids. I can't make them be successful. I can only be there to support them, to remind them what they said that they want. And these are the results that you have at the moment in that what you wanted. Is that what you want? Are you satisfied with that or not? And they will either take that next step when they're ready to get there, or
Right.
they won't. And it's their life. That's,
Right. And I think I think that it's important to notice we have 3 very different lifestyles here at this table.
yeah.
We have 3 very different lifestyles. All of us have full plates, very active lives. So the points, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say this, are not to suggest that that whatever it is you're doing is wrong, or that life doesn't show up for us and often tend to pull us away, and we have decisions to make at any given time. But up until now, it's never been at the top of our list to start evaluating what we're doing for ourselves. So, because if I told you that on any given day I wear 8 hats on any given day.
I believe it.
So there can be that you can feel exhausted, and feeling exhausted doesn't have to mean that you're doing it the wrong way, or that you're not coming from a place of joy because you're exhausted. The truth of the matter is, just like social media has changed the rate of communication, technology has made it so that we are always multitasking, always. But we get so caught up in that multitasking that we have, it's become so habitual. This has become a habit. And the minute I touch this, I see that, oh, there was an email from a customer I didn't answer. Or then, oh, there's a text message from my mother, let me answer that. So it's taking a look at what has become a really, really full plate, and not saying that you have to give anything up, but maybe you're going to barter for a couple of weeks. Barter or just let's do a habit swap. And you can keep those habits. You don't have to, there doesn't be any separation anxiety. You can keep every habit you have. We're just asking you to incorporate the healthy habits for 3 weeks, because as the most of the scientific textbook data states about the forming of a new habit takes 3 weeks. Smoking methods to quit smoking, there is a 3-week period where they say that the 3 weeks is typically the toughest, and if you can get past the 3 weeks, it tends to get easier, or the cravings tend to diminish. I still struggle with it, but in and of itself, for most people, it's not about whether they can do the habit, it's whether they have even considered investing enough in their own dreams to take the review, to take some time to see how things are, what they look like, and if they want change. Most people are existing. They're going through the motions. They're multitasking, filling all of these roles, going through the motions, and allowing the standards set by society to dictate whether you're happy or healthy, rather than this desire inside of ourselves that we mask with all of the labels. Mm-hmm. I am a firm, by my own admission, I wear many hats, and I think, it's a lot less now than it used to be, so I'm getting much closer. But, I filled myself up with a lot of things to cover up that loneliness that I was feeling, so I filled it up. So now that I'm no longer lonely, I still have this full plate, and it's heavy. Yep. So, that was one of my goals. One of my goals for this resolution success was to give up some of the titles and some of the tasks that keep me from the things that make me happy.
One of the things that Dr. Phil is famous for saying is, how's that working for you? And my metaphysical teacher used to put it like, what are you getting out of that? People will complain bitterly about those things which you try to get them to let go of.
Right.
And there's a reason. There's a reason they're holding on. And the reason could be because they don't want to do that inventory. They don't really want to look at their lives. They have a sense that there's something wrong, but if they look at it, then what?
Yeah, then it's real.
Then it becomes real.
Well, it's kind of like someone who cuts you off on the road, right? Do you ever notice? And because I'm on the road all the time, I have to have a good sense of humor to be on the road. So there are all different types of people on the road, and especially the ones that will cut you off, but they will pretend as you pass them by.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't them. They just keep staring. If I stare straight, she won't know what I just did. So, and I passed by like, thank you very much, lady. She woke me up on the road. Maybe that was what she was there for. But so, just to keep those thoughts in mind and not settle for the mediocrity, unless, of course, we feel satisfied. So then, to Emma Curtis Hopkins' point, if you are living a life and you feel reward and satisfaction, then I want you to write to us at thisorbetter.com and tell us your story and your secret. And I don't mean that sarcastically or even to be funny. I genuinely want to know what it is you do that has you living a life of joy and satisfaction. Not success, satisfaction. And so on that note, Oh, we still have about 5 minutes, so we could take another caller. Another caller at
Phantom.
845-353-2910. And share with us your secret for joy and satisfaction. So, ladies?
I was very joyful and satisfied with the weather we had on Saturday afternoon. It was just
wasn't
simply
that beautiful?
gorgeous. So,
Yep.
and sitting in the window with the sun streaming in this afternoon in my kitchen, that's very satisfying to me. It feels so good. Satisfying with the work that we're doing, with our group, our reach work and parenting work that I do, and Jan, your
I'm so happy and grateful that I'm here. And I took
me
a breath
too.
this morning. That those people who are no longer here in my life, I miss them, but I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Good. So then you'll love to know that soon we will be introducing a Reach Boot Camp.
Boot camp. Whoa.
It's a Reach Boot Camp, and so it is a challenge. It's to challenge ourselves to get to that next jump, and we'll do it together, and I'm working out the details on that. But it's called Abundance Boot Camp. Reach ABC, Abundance Boot Camp.
hello.
So, hello there.
Okay, say hello now.
Hello,
Hello.
Hi, who's calling?
this is Jane.
Oh, hi, Jane. Jane, for the audience, Jane is another Reach participant. She's another Reach student that has been on the Reach workshop with us. Hello, Jane. How are you this evening?
I'm good, thank you. Very good. I couldn't help but the reason I'm calling. Whoops, I'm downstairs by the computer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. The reason I was calling was I tuned into your statement about letting go, and that people are afraid to let go because they are afraid to let go and lose control of their lives, or perhaps they don't want their lives to change. And I recently had an experience where I did let go. It was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And not knowing the experience, what the experience would bring me, I had things I had to do in other areas that I realized in order to accomplish that, I had to let this one area go. And if it was meant to come back to me, it would. And if it wasn't, I would hope that I would be made to see a better situation. And what happened was I had 17 months of letting go. And then a couple of months ago, this one particular thing came back to me. And, you know, it's funny. I've been given a gift. And I think that gift is being able to see when things happen, the build-up or the steps you've taken before. And you say to yourself, I understand now why this happened and this happened. And I wasn't fully prepared for what I wanted. I had to take the steps within me in order to get to where I wanted to be. And sometimes when you pray for something, things don't come 100%. They come 10%. They come 20%. But I think if you can recognize and realize that all these little steps are leading up to that final request that you've made, or that final realization that you want so much. A lot of people will say, well, you know, I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm just going to forget about it. But something had me holding on, and this is what happened to me, and I can't tell you what else it brings into your life. It brings an added faith, an added trust. It builds up your confidence. It builds up your self-esteem.
So Jane, let me interrupt you for a second. So are you sharing this as a result of the curriculum that you have been intentionally focused on? Is this something that you're recognizing as the result of your skin in the game, you showing up for class and doing the work?
Yes, absolutely. And it's an awareness that has been given to me also, which is also part of the curriculum.
Well, the awareness was always there. You're just aware of it now.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
just really
And-
being
and
in
I
tune
like-
with your intuition and being able to trust yourself. I think a little bit of self-confidence, would you say?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You know, your statement of being in the class, we've discussed self-confidence versus and I've gotten both. I thought I had self-confidence, but it comes to you in different ways, and the results are different. And I've just been so enlightened. I'm not going to say I don't have my down days. I'm not going to say that I walk around all the time happy Harry or whatever. But
Blowing
for the
bubbles.
most part, I know how to get back, and that's
Right.
the important part. I know how to get back.
Congratulations. That's awesome, Jane.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing
You sound very balanced. I think balance is the key word.
Yeah, I do feel that way, and I would really recommend to anybody who has any kind of questioning going on in their life to take one of these courses, because you come in, you know, it's okay, I'll try it, and you go out, I got to take another one. What's the next? I mean, it's just, and it's not something that you do. And Lisa, you have said this before. It's not that you don't know, you didn't know it before, but now you're coming from it, and
Right.
you don't need to think about it that much anymore. You just live it, and that's
Absolutely. And so you know what, my dear, then you will love hearing about the Reach ABC workshop, which is Abundance Boot Camp, ABC. That is what it means. It's a boot camp for taking us to the next level. So I'll talk to you more about that. But I can't thank you enough for sharing your experience and your testimony.
And thank you for investing in yourself. I mean,
Right.
Oh, well, my
skin in the
pleasure. My pleasure.
Right, and we will continue to do this work. It's great stuff. I absolutely love it, and you know what they say: when you love what you do, you've got
Never
staying
work a
power.
day in your
right.
life.
You never work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
So on
Absolutely.
that note, we do have to say good evening because the time has come for our show to close. And this or better, we will update you soon. If you'd like to email either Jan, Teresa, or myself, you can do so by contacting us at thisorbetter.com. And we will resume our show. We will be taking a break before we determine when our next show will air. So if you need information, check us out on the website, thisorbetter.com. Thank you and have a beautiful week.
Good night.
Good night.